This question is from chapter 12 or 13, again, just depending on which textbook you have. Well, there's only two theories of mortgage lending, so the answer can only be one of two things. It's either going to be lien theory or title theory. First thing to know is that Florida is a lien theory state. So if you were to look at Florida on the map, you would see that it looks like a long and lean state. So that's how I remembered it to begin with. Florida is a long and lean state. So we are a lien theory state. You say, what does that mean, a lien theory state? Well, 5 years ago when I went to go buy my house, at the closing table, they give you a big packet. And in that packet is going to have your mortgage, it's going to have your appraisal, it's going to have your survey, all of the things associated with buying a house. What also it has in it is your deed. And so I have a copy of my deed, or I have my deed. And so that's a really good thing to know, that even though I borrowed $250,000, I own my house. Because the way that you prove you own your house is by showing the deed. And so I have the deed. So the question on the state exam would say, in which theory of lending does the borrower retain ownership during the loan period? Well, that's lien theory. That means I own my house even though I have a mortgage lien on it. So now let's look at the opposite, which is called title theory. If you lived in California, they practice title theory of lending. And what that means is when you go to the closing table and you get that big packet, your deed is not in that packet. You see your deed, but you don't leave with your deed. You don't get your deed until 30 years later after you've made your last payment. So that's why it's called a title theory of lending. You are essentially a renter until you make that last payment. So if you lived in California, the question would say on the state exam, or this is what it would say on the state exam. It would say, in what theory of lending does the borrower not retain ownership during the loan period? Well, that's title theory, like if you lived in California. Think about it like a car. I have two cars. One of my cars is paid off, one of my cars is not paid off. When I pay off my car that's not paid off, my title is going to be mailed to me. And that's why they call it title theory, because title means ownership. So, in which theory of lending does the borrower retain ownership? That's during the loan period, lien theory. In which theory of lending does the borrower not retain ownership? That's title theory. Most of the time they ask about, for some reason, which theory of lending does the borrower not retain ownership? Well, if you do not retain ownership during the loan period, that's a title theory state. And so you're sure to see that question.